Hey everyone, I've been sick and out of it, and definitely not up to shooting the vulnerability video I've mentioned, but I did have something amazing happen during a trip I made to Washington, D.C. recently. I was sleeping, and I'm going to kind of tell this story as it unfolded for me. I was sleeping, but it very much felt like a visitation. It very much felt like people were with me and telling me a story, and it wasn't linear in the way that I experienced it, but I'm going to do my best to relay it and then how it affected me. These two people are telling me this story of a small village, small community, let's say around 100 people, in the middle of a tropical jungle thousands of years ago. And in this small village, everybody was very tight-knit, very close. Everybody knew everybody, of course. And someone had died. A man had died. And before he had died, he had told somebody in the village that he would be giving them a portion of his land. It isn't legally separated the way we do it here in the United States, but more along the lines of that he would be given the fruit of these trees or these plants for a certain number of years. And when he passed away, though, he didn't tell that to his family. He didn't tell his family that he had made that promise. And so his children and the people of his home disputed this claim. They said, no, this is not yours. We never heard of that. And this was kind of the beginning of trouble in paradise, if you will, because the village had always had very harmonious and very peaceful interactions with each other. And here was something where legitimate misunderstanding was starting to create tension. And the way it unfolded, as it was told to me, is that the next day, this person was going to come and basically like stake a claim, like seize the land and squat on it or whatever, in some way, make it clear that it was his. And this was going to create a showdown in a way. And the thing that was going to happen was seen by these two beings. These two people in the village were actually these very highly evolved beings. You might call them visitors, you might call them starseeds, but they knew what they were. They knew that they were different. They were very heart-based, highly evolved beings in human form with these villagers, living this life in this village, and they loved the people of this village. They loved everything about this community and the closeness and the joy that they all shared, the peace. It was very important to them. And it was something that was an experience that they've treasured during their time on Earth. I believe it was Earth. That was never actually explicitly spoken, but as it was told to me, these people recognized this couple, and we'll call them Uncle John and Aunt Joan. Uncle John and Aunt Joan knew that this dispute would create a rift in the town, not the town, but the village community. And that it would never be the same. That forever there would be this divide and this he said, she said, and this kind of, us and them would begin to form in a community that had been really close. And so all this energy that had been used for building connections with each other and growth and love and all the high vibration stuff, all this good energy that was being cultivated, all that energy would be sunk into this rift, into this like taking sides dynamic, and it would stall and really kind of set back the progress of this community through the generations. So they saw that. And they didn't want to allow that. They loved the people, and they loved each other very much as well. And so how to resolve that? What do you do? What they decided to do, because they were so evolved and so aware, they decided to transcend their physical forms. In other words, they were going to release their consciousness from these physical bodies. And the physical bodies would essentially, plop to the ground and be lifeless. But their consciousness they chose to disperse. What they focused on was all the positive and beautiful things in the hearts of these villagers in this community. And what they wanted to do was really kind of invest themselves, pour their consciousness into that portion of all of these people. So John and Joan would essentially be living as a collective being, as a being who's parsed out across all of these other humans within their consciousness. And all of these humans would woke up the next day, on this day that this showdown was supposed to happen. They all woke up feeling the presence of John and Joan. Now, they knew John and Joan. Everybody, of course, knew them and loved them. They were good people. But now they felt them with them at all times. And it was almost as though they could have a conversation with John and Joan within themselves, as if their own conscience, if you will, could speak to them. And they had this very intimate connection with John and Joan, each individual within the whole community. It was very powerful. And in this way, John and Joan promoted the beautiful and the good within each person. So, for example, they showed me one story where they had connected with a young woman in the village, probably a late teens, early 20s. And they said to her, they really kind of shared with her, like, you are very talented with plants, and you would do well to invest your energy into learning more about plants and developing plant medicines and doing all that. And she had not seen herself that way. She had not seen that as a specialty or a gift of any kind, and she was a little bit confused, but they reassured her. And she began to invest her time and energy into working with plants. And they showed me another young man about the same age who within himself began to feel this conversation open up within him. And it was the suggestion that, you should really consider working with the teacher of the village, as a particularly intelligent and wise older man in the village who knew many things, and they encouraged him to ask to be a student. And this young man didn't understand why this was coming up for him, and he explored and realized it was John and Joan with him, and they had this conversation. And he said, I don't really think I'm particularly like that older gentleman. I don't know why you would make that suggestion, And they said, you're very intelligent, you're very smart, much more than you believe, and you could change the world. And they had told that to the younger woman too. It was a message they wanted me to know, that they had conveyed to these people, you could change the world by championing the beautiful things inside of you, by investing yourself in those. And they showed me Joan's perspective, and it was really trippy, because in this communication that I received, I was able to take Joan's perspective. And Joan, I felt her like spread out across all these different human minds. It was really cool, as though she was part of all of these people, and they all were connected with each other through her. And they all shared a certain vibration that they recognized as John and Joan. And this became something of the real heart of the community. So I wrote some notes because I didn't want to forget this, and I've been sick. So when everyone woke up the next morning, this dispute melted away. And they no longer were going to have a showdown, because everybody felt connected. This little plot of land was insignificant compared with the treasure trove of the village, of all the people, all the beautiful things inside of them that could grow, that could really, as they said, change the world. Now, mind you, this is a relatively isolated village in the middle of nowhere, thousands of years ago, and they had no real understanding of anything in terms of changing the world. But that's what they began to believe in, because that's what John and Joan shared with them. And John and Joan lived out here on Earth the rest of their days until the last humans of that community died. And then they were gone. They moved on. But that was their experience of life on Earth. For them, they had done the human thing, and then in order to salvage this village, they did what they did. Now, I think there's a lot of different ways that you could, there's a lot of different ways that you could play with this, but let me tell you a few things that happened. As they closed down the story, and the story came to a close, these visuals ended. I was just in a room by myself in this visual, and the camera sort of panned around to reveal that I was alone. And I was looking in a mirror, and I was talking to myself in a mirror. In other words, John and Joan were inside me, sharing this story. It was a really powerful moment for me, where I felt their presence with me through, in a very personal way, very intimate way, and realized that they were part of me. And there's a really strong sense that these were members of my collective, the collective I come from, that I call Seven, and that they were those of us who helped seed the early civilizations of Earth. And when I opened myself to learn more about that, the first thing that came through was South America. That a lot of the Mesoamerican cultures that developed over thousands of years, and that essentially shared ideas and concepts and mysticism with each other, were informed to some degree by this village. Prior to anybody having writing or history, they didn't have clear documentation of this. But these beings basically helped shape a lot of the ideas and concepts and cultures of South America and Central America. And it was pretty powerful for me to connect with all of that. And so I used this story, and over the following 24 hours, I kind of used it like a portal. I took that story and I kind of freeze-framed it. And I opened myself up, my heart, to whatever wisdom would flow through. And what I saw was, the same thing that happened everywhere else in the world. You had this beautiful experience, this mystical, intimate, well-intentioned experience. And some of the death cults and darker elements twisted this beautiful self-sacrifice from John and Joan and turned it into something else. And this is related to a lot of the aches and wounds that I feel as a member of my collective, working intimately with Earth, feeling the warping and the twisting and the bending of our best intentions, the energy we're trying to offer. But also recognizing that humans will evolve and change and grow and really kind of mutate this energy into something very special. Humans are going to take this stream of high vibration energy that was poured down into these dark crevices, and then they're going to evolve it and work with it over time, over thousands of years. And it's going to go through its dark turns, and it's going to go through phases that are painful, and it's going to produce all the things that you see in the world today. But ultimately, it's going to be refined by Earth. And what comes out on the other end, the output of everybody's efforts, is going to be beautiful. And it's going to be earthy in a way that's different. It's going to be distinct. So while Seven's energy was distinct in its early connection with Earth and in the ways that we brought ourselves here to serve and to give. Earth is going to take that and build something beautiful with it and offer that wherever they go, wherever people take that energy going forward. It's going to be its own special thing. Anyway, I'm kind of shaking because it's kind of cold out here. But anyway, that's the story of Uncle John and Aunt Joan. And I hope you enjoyed it.